The sun, a molten disk of fire, bled crimson and gold across the horizon, casting long, dancing shadows that stretched and contorted across the manicured lawn of the Morozov estate. Inside, the atmosphere was far less serene. The grand, two-story house, once a beacon of warmth and familial love, now felt suffocating, permeated by a silent tension that clung to the walls like cobwebs. Elena Sergeyevna, a woman of 70 years, but with a spirit that belied her age, settled into her favorite armchair by the roaring fireplace. The flames, usually a comforting presence, seemed to mirror the unease churning within her. She held a leather-bound volume of Chekhov in her lap, but the words swam before her eyes, unable to penetrate the fog of suspicion and worry that had enveloped her in recent months. Her daughter-in-law, Maria, flitted around the room with an exaggerated air of solicitousness. Maria was beautiful, undeniably so, with high cheekbones, emerald green eyes, and a cascade of dark, glossy hair. But Elena could no longer see past the deceptive facade. The youth and beauty, once appealing, now seemed like a calculated disguise, a mask concealing a darker, more sinister nature. Maria, who had married Elena's son, Mikhail, a year prior, entered with a tray holding a delicate porcelain tea set. The clinking of cup against saucer was amplified in the quiet room like an insistent drumbeat. "Elena Sergeyevna, would you care for some tea? I've made your favorite chamomile blend. It is said to calm the nerves," Maria offered, her voice too light, her smile too wide to be genuine. It was an act, a performance she had honed over time, attempting to appear dutiful and devoted, yet Elena saw through it with increasing clarity. "Thank you, Maria. That's very kind of you," Elena responded, her gaze fixed on the younger woman. She noticed a slight tremor in Maria's hand as she poured the tea, a subtle tell that betrayed an inner nervousness. Elena forced herself to remain calm, to observe, to gather evidence for the accusations that swirled in her mind. Maria carefully placed a cup before Elena, the steam rising in delicate tendrils. "Is there anything else I can get for you, Elena Sergeyevna? Perhaps a shawl? Or some more kindling for the fire?" Her eagerness was stifling, almost desperate. "No, thank you, Maria. Just your company will be lovely," Elena replied, adding the last words almost as an afterthought. She was testing Maria, probing for a reaction. Maria sat down on the opposite side of the fireplace, her movements stiff and unnatural. She sipped her tea with exaggerated grace, her eyes darting around the room as if searching for an escape. Elena watched her in silence, an unsettling calm settling over her. She had always been a keen observer of human behavior, a skill honed over years of navigating the complexities of family life and social circles. She had sensed Maria's duplicity from the beginning, a subtle dissonance in her words and actions, which had steadily grown ever since the beginning of their relationship. "You seem preoccupied tonight, Elena Sergeyevna. Is something troubling you?" Maria asked, attempting to adopt a tone of concern. "I am simply reflecting on the past, Maria. On the choices we make and the paths we take," Elena answered vaguely, her eyes still studying Maria intently. The conversation faltered. An uneasy silence descended upon the room, broken only by the crackling of the fire. Minutes ticked by with agonizing slowness before Maria stood abruptly. "If you will excuse me, Elena Sergeyevna, I have some correspondence to attend to." She did not wait for a response and hurried from the room, her footsteps echoing in the hallway. Elena watched her go, a cold certainty settling in her mind. She knew, with a conviction that chilled her to the bone, that Maria was planning something. She didn't know what, but she was determined to find out. As Maria disappeared into the kitchen, she felt a surge of adrenaline, her earlier composure crumbling. She had to act quickly to ensure that her plan was executed flawlessly. She pulled a small vial from her apron pocket, a vial containing a colorless, odorless liquid that she had procured from a mysterious source, a man with eyes as cold as winter ice. It was a potent poison, undetectable in small doses, that would mimic the symptoms of a natural illness, a slow, agonizing decline that would eventually lead to death. She had initially researched less detectable methods, but she knew that Elena was sharp, and she would need to be certain that the deed was done without attracting suspicion. Maria's motive was simple: greed. Mikhail, while kind and generous, was not particularly ambitious, his mind more focused on his hobbies and art than business or profit. Maria hoped to inherit the family fortune upon Elena's death. She craved the lifestyle it would afford her, the freedom from financial worries. The quiet, well-managed life Elena and Mikhail had constructed was not appealing to her. She wanted something dynamic that would match her ambition. As she opened the refrigerator, preparing Elena's dinner of a delicate chicken soup, she carefully poured a few drops of the poison into the broth, stirring it gently to ensure that it was evenly distributed. "Soon it will all be mine," she whispered, a cruel smile playing on her lips. She was so close to achieving her dreams. Unbeknownst to Maria, Elena had quietly followed her into the kitchen, her senses on high alert. She watched, hidden in the shadows, as Maria meticulously prepared the soup, her every movement precise and deliberate. Elena's heart pounded in her chest as the gravity of the situation became terrifyingly clear. She had been right all along. Maria was indeed plotting to kill her. She stepped out of the shadows, her voice ice-cold. "What exactly are you doing?" Maria whirled around, her face aghast. The vial slipped from her fingers and clattered to the floor, the remaining liquid splattering across the tile. "Elena Sergeyevna! I can't explain," she stammered, her eyes wide with terror. "Explain what, Maria? Explain why you were adding poison to my soup? Explain why you have been trying to subtly undermine my well-being in life?" Elena questioned icily, taking a step forward. Maria was trapped, her carefully constructed facade shattered. She knew that there was no point in denying it any longer. I did it for Mikhail," she sobbed, trying to evoke sympathy. "He deserves so much more than this. He deserves to be free from your control." "Free from my control? I have always loved and supported Mikhail. I have only ever wanted what is best for him," Elena retorted, her voice trembling with anger and disbelief. "But you are holding him back. You are clinging to your wealth and your power and preventing him from truly living his life," Maria wailed, desperately trying to justify her actions. "And you thought that poisoning me was the solution to these concerns?" Elena questioned. "I didn't. I don't actually want to kill you, but you need to take a step back," Maria stammered, looking around frantically, as if trying to find someplace to run. "Enough of these excuses." Elena cut her off, backing away to grab her phone from the counter. "The police will sort this." Elena called the authorities, her voice surprisingly steady as she reported Maria's crime. While waited there, Maria made no attempt to escape. She now knew it was over. The authorities arrived quickly, conducting a thorough investigation of the kitchen. They discovered the vial, analyzed the soup, and confirmed that it was indeed laced with a deadly poison. Maria was arrested and taken into custody, which left Mikhail shattered. He simply could not believe the wife he had loved was not at all who he had thought her to be. He was torn between disbelief and grief as he watched his wife disappear in the back of the police car. The revelation came down on him with the weight of stone. The trial was a sensational affair, with the press covering every development in detail. The prosecution presented irrefutable evidence of Maria's guilt, while her defense attorney attempted to argue that she was acting out of desperation, and that she never intended to actually harm Elena. The jury, however, didn't appear to be swayed by those arguments. In the end, Maria was found guilty of attempted murder and sentenced to a lengthy prison term. Her dreams of wealth and freedom had been crushed, replaced by the grim reality of a prison cell. The whole ordeal left a deep scar on Elena. She felt betrayed by someone she had welcomed into her home and into her family. She struggled with feelings of anger, sadness, and confusion. Why had Maria done this? What had Elena done to warrant such malice? Mikhail was heartbroken, reeling from the betrayal of his wife and the trauma inflicted upon his mother. He sought therapy to cope with the emotional toll, struggling to rebuild his life in the wake of the scandal. Elena, despite the pain, refused to harbor bitterness. She realized that revenge would only perpetuate the cycle of violence. Instead, she decided to focus on healing and forgiveness. She continued with her charitable work, dedicating her time and resources to helping those in need. Years later, after Maria had served a significant portion of her sentence, Elena received a letter from her. In the letter, Maria expressed deep remorse for her actions. She admitted that she had been blinded by greed and ambition, and that she regretted the pain she had caused Elena and Mikhail. She had been the victim of her own ambition and greed. She also detailed the circumstances by which she had been given the poison, claiming with some certainty that she had also been exploited, and that the dealer of the poison had sold her a false bill of goods under false pretenses. Elena was touched by the letter. She had not expected an acknowledgement of wrongdoing. But she knew that true forgiveness required more than just words. It required action. She decided to visit Maria in prison. It was a difficult encounter, filled with uncomfortable silences and awkward moments. But Elena listened patiently to Maria's apologies, hearing the sincerity in her voice. When it was time to leave, Elena took Maria's hand and squeezed it gently. "I forgive you, Maria," she said, her voice soft but firm. "But you must also forgive yourself." They both knew that while there may have been forgiveness extended, there was no guarantee that they would ever be able to go back to the way things had been before. Maria burst into tears, relief washing over her face. She knew that she could never fully make amends for what she had done, but Elena's forgiveness gave her a sense of closure and acceptance. After Maria was released from prison, she struggled to rebuild her life. She had a criminal record, and she faced constant discrimination. Despite the challenges, she persevered. She found work as a cleaner for a shop, barely enough to provide her with food and board. She was shunned by many, but she tried to stay positive. She volunteered at a local homeless shelter, using her experience to help others who had fallen on hard times. Elena watched from a distance, observing Maria's progress. She admired her determination and her commitment to making amends. She was no longer a threat, no longer a villainess, but a broken woman trying to find her way back to the light. One day, Elena approached Maria and offered her a job at the charity foundation she had established. Maria was stunned by the offer. "I don't deserve this," she said, tears welling up in her eyes. "Perhaps you don't," Elena replied. "But everyone deserves a second chance." Maria accepted the job and dedicated herself to helping others. She found purpose and meaning in her work, using her past experiences to connect with those who were struggling. Elena and Maria developed an unlikely friendship, forged in the crucible of betrayal and forgiveness. They learned from each other, supporting each other through the ups and downs of life.